Considering what transpired in Snowfall Season 6 Episode 5, you'd believe Teddy posed the greatest threat to the Saint family. Franklin discovers that Kane, his adversary and business partner, poses a more immediate threat. Gustavo makes his decision on a side in this perilous game of backstabbing somewhere. Veronique is being begged by Cassandra, who is standing on an airport tarmac in Flagstaff, Arizona, not to go back to Los Angeles with Franklin. The worried mother confides in her daughter that her lover is unraveling and that killing the father of a CIA operative makes Franklin and everyone associated with him a significant target. For herself and her daughter, Cassandra claims to have a passport prepared. Veronique rebuffs Cassandra's attempts to convince her that she should keep her daughter away from Teddy and Franklin, potentially harmful back and forth. According to Veronique, she doesn't want to live a rootless life like she did as a child, and neither does her unborn child. She says she also wants to be with Franklin since she can trust him. Cassandra departs after saying those words in her own way. Kane kidnapped Louie. It's late at night, and a frightened Louie is pleading with her security team to find Jerome. Since he allegedly quit the drug trade, she hasn't seen him. Jerome comes into the driveway while intoxicated before her men take to the streets. He reiterates that he wants out of the company and to get to Jamaica as soon as possible. Jerome is determined, despite Louie's suspicions that he doesn't mean what he says. He claims that despite their wealth, the violence they are surrounded by and the conflict with his family are not worth it. She makes it obvious that she is not prepared to abandon what they have created. The conversation is put on hold for the evening and is resumed the following morning. Louie apologizes about their current situation with Franklin during their talk. She was aware that sneaking around Teddy to create her own drug pipeline would enrage her nephew, but she was unaware that Teddy would siphon off Franklin's funds. Louie explains that her yearning for respect is what drives her acts. Despite being the brains of the enterprise, she feels that her efforts to their empire have always gone unnoticed, and that Jerome is instead given the glory and honor that are rightfully hers. She admits that she made promises to Teddy and that she is terrified of his reactions if she tries to leave La too soon, despite the fact that she is open to doing so. She receives a page from Scully telling her that she must meet with him in order to make a drop. Instead, Jerome offers to go and advises her to relax. The most effective method, she determines, is to ride her horse. When Kane's men see her at the riding grounds, things quickly turn worse. Although she has protection with her on the property, Kane's thugs shoot them to death. The two of Kane's men then approach Louie and take her to their boss. Franklin cautions his closest allies to keep quiet. To warn Leon, Wanda, and Sissy, Franklin meets with them in La. He says that since he killed Teddy's father, they need to take extra care. Teddy visiting the projects doesn't worry Leon, but Sissy is skeptical of Franklin's risky action. Franklin claims that Teddy is now seeking him out just as desperately as he is. Teddy's drive for vengeance can cause him to act carelessly, giving Franklin the chance to get his millions back. Franklin invites his mother to stay at a stash home as things come to a close, but she declines. Franklin's best friend promises to protect her, and she continues to live in the projects with Leon. Gustavo supports Franklin. Gustavo concludes that accepting Franklin's offer of $10 million in exchange for helping him frame Teddy is his best option despite working for Teddy, spying on him for the D, and being courted by Ruben for the KGB. Gustavo demands the upfront payment of $10 million when the two meet to discuss the conditions. Franklin must first obtain the money back from Teddy before he can give it to him. Gustavo has no other cards, so Franklin counters to give him $1 million right away. Gustavo concurs, but he also requests that Franklin give him and his family passports and promise that Franklin will kill Teddy once he receives his millions back. Franklin is happy to comply. A rescue operation ends fatally. Kane is attempting to persuade her to reveal the identity of the officer who actually shot Louie as he waits for Franklin to arrive to surprise him with the news that he has captured and tied up Louie. Aunt Franklin won't part with anything. Kane begins kicking Louie because talking to her isn't providing him the information he needs. He then tells her that he intends to invite other men over later to have their way with her. He's hoping the threat will sway her. Franklin arrives just in time to watch his aunt bleeding to death. He doesn't know why Kane called him to come witness what happens to Louie, but Franklin should be the one to kill her, in Kane's opinion. He pressures her to snitch when the family is left alone to discuss because Kane's intended fate is worse than death by bullet. She declines as defiantly as ever and Franklin departs. Franklin, who is still with Scully, pages his uncle. Franklin has Leon make contact with Jerome to ask him to save his wife because Jerome is ignoring the pages. In typical Jerome form, he gets angry. Franklin and Leon are waiting for Jerome at another warehouse with Scully in tow. The meeting is unpleasant since Scully and Leon are facing each other for the first time since Leon unintentionally killed Jerome's daughter, and because Jerome is upset with his nephew for driving him there rather than to Louie. Following the heated arguments, a strategy is created to bring Louie back. Kane is able to grasp Mrs. Saint and raise a gun to her head as Franklin, Leon, Jerome, Scully, and their men struggle to gain entry to the warehouse where Louie is just about to be sexually raped. He tells Jerome to let him go and let the past be the past as he looks Jerome in the eye. Jerome disagrees with the idea. Immediately as the two men exchange gunfire, Louie falls to the ground. In the end, Jerome and Kane murder one another. Franklin enters the scene while Franklin is crying and shouting out "Unk," as Louie understandably starts to cry. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.